Okay, welcome back. It's been a few weeks. Kat and I have been away in Alaska because we're awesome. And we've missed you though, so we're back. We've got 2 more weeks this week and next Monday, and so hope you'll tune in to join us for our little marriage series. We're in chapter 10 of our book, if you've been following along in the book series. And tonight, maybe the toughest one of all, because it's about money. So God's design for handling money. I think you guys probably already know this because you've done enough, been around me enough, but it's always funny when I do premarital counseling because I ask couples, what's the number one leading cause of divorce in the United States? And they always say communication, and I always go, that's not it.
It's money.
It's money. Arguments concerning money are the number one leading cause of problems in a marriage, leading cause of divorce in a marriage. It's the leading cause of friction in a marriage. Money can be tough. And when money's off, when you're not on the same page when it comes to handling finances, it can be rough. Anybody ever had an argument about money? Yes? She said,
No.
We don't argue about money, but my husband is very, he's way better than at money than I am. I am not good at money.
how have you avoided all arguments concerning money?
Fear. So I think
No, go
but I
ahead.
think like for us it was a very not unique because I'm sure a lot of couples go through this, but we were we both come from a divorce, so she was independent and by herself for a long time. So for us to get together and me kind of like counsel her or say anything about finances was always like a tricky sensitive subject.
It was sensitive?
Yeah,
Why, how so?
Because I manage my own finances for over 10 years on my own. And it's not like I had tons of money, but I just learned how to handle my finances the way that it was suitable to me.
Okay.
So once we got married, it was like, he's like, no, this is not the best idea, or we have to do this different. And I know he has our best interest at heart, and I know that I'm terrible with money. I've always lived paycheck to paycheck, so
Yeah.
savings is not a concept for me. I just want to
So let me get this straight.
buy stuff for people.
Can I
and
reiterate?
I'm
So
like,
basically, the reason you avoided it because you had nowhere to go but up when it came to like handling
it's
money.
not even that. It's like, so did he, by the way, because he also had one income and now we have 2.
Okay.
Actually, I have 2 and he has none.
Well, it was more of that. It was just like anytime that I did try to talk to her about it, she kind of thought it was like a personal attack on her.
Oh, okay.
Like she took
Yeah.
it personal, and it was just a lot. And also, whenever I told her, I was like, "Hey, I believe that we should have this amount or this goal saved up, just in case something happens." And it was just kind of like now we don't talk about it as much, but before she thought like I just wanted to have money to have it. And I'm like, no, I want to have money because if something comes up and, with my job, or you should always have a couple of months of rent saved up and some like cushion money that you're not like struggling trying to make ends meet. She just thought I wanted to have money just to have money saved.
Were you sensitive when you guys got married about money? Like talking about money?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. You were easy peasy, just like, let's do this?
I think so.
Yeah? Were you willing to like jump in and put it all together and be like, find a level of oneness pretty quick on it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, we established some guidelines for like buying and things like that.
Okay, like what do you mean?
Like, remember the $100 rule?
Nice.
Yeah, it's gone right
Yeah. But we had we discussed it, and it's like, okay, if you want to buy something that's less than $100, then have at it.
That was your threshold. Like $100 was like,
so
hey,
anything
we
over
don't need to
$100
discuss
we
it.
need to
So
discuss.
every day, no, I'm just kidding.
Like every day I would buy something $20 worth, and then it would never.
So like not a
there's-
shopper, so I didn't care.
Yeah. But that was kind of a way. It was an attempt, I think, to try to manage and to,
Yeah.
make sure that we were on a playing field.
It's funny because when you're doing premarital, when I'm talking to couples in premarital counseling, there are two basic thresholds. Both of you just talked about them, right? Like I asked the two basic questions. I say, hey, what do you have? I asked each couple. I said, this is not a right or wrong question. I say, hey, what do you have to have in savings to feel comfortable, to sleep well at night? You know what I'm saying? And UV says 0, and you said 3 months, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know,
I
so-
remember that.
Yeah, you know, and then same over here. And then the second question is, hey, how much can your partner spend without asking,
Yeah.
and it feel comfortable? And what's that threshold? And so once you answer those two things, and then compromise on whatever it is, because it's not right or wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of like, hey, what's your comfort level? And that avoids like so much conflict. Like once you get that figured out, like conflict usually goes way down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Did you get to that point quickly? Like, did you get to the point where you're like, okay, savings goal done, peace?
Listen.
Kids, come on.
Exactly.
I
That's
was just gonna say, like, child support, there was a lot of
Expenses.
yeah,
Yeah.
braces, college, so it wasn't like we had a lot to talk about.
yeah.
This little bit left over, we're gonna fight over it.
Yeah.
Right.
It was the same thing with us. It was like, oh, with 5 kids, and so maybe this is not gonna happen as quick as I think it's gonna happen.
Right.
But I think we always come back to like I tell us, hey, this is my goal, like where I think we should be, or at least thrive to or to achieve, and we work on it, and sometimes we do better than others, but we don't really argue over finances and stuff like that.
Oh, we were talking about it today. We're flipped from you guys, so
Okay.
Kat would need the certain level of savings, and I would be the paycheck to paycheck and give it all away and do
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just free willy. But we found ourselves getting into this problem. She'll come and say, "Hey, I want to make this purchase." And I'll be like, great, good idea, let's do it. And then I don't realize that that's dipping us below whatever her normal threshold is. So she's making us like a suicide mission, right? And so then we dip below the threshold, and then it's the tension. And I'm like, what
Oh,
happened?
no,
Why is there
we don't.
tension? And it's like,
That's not an
that's
accurate
true.
statement.
That's true.
We don't make big purchases. The purchase we're talking about is not like an item.
No, I'm not talking about like a.
Like a vacation.
No, I'm not talking about
No?
that. I'm talking like a house or like, saying something big.
Yeah.
So like, hey, let's buy this, and that dips us below whatever. We're spending more than we thought, blah, blah, blah. And then there's tension, and I'm like, why is there she conned me into it.
The challenge that we have, the biggest challenge is like that we do have 5 kids, and we're always trying to balance like, okay, how do I save but also like give these kids a life? Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's
He's really good at long term.
Mm-hmm.
He is, and if he comes to me, which I know that he usually tiptoes around because he doesn't want to upset me when it comes to finances. And I don't know why, because babe, stop.
I know.
No, like honestly, I'm pretty good at recognizing that
Yeah.
I'm not good with money.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
Like, if I have $20 and I see a homeless on the street, I'm like, here's 10. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's not that I don't need it. I know that we need money, but I grew up with very little.
Yeah.
So to me, money is like, okay, it'll come.
Yeah.
I've never gotten hungry,
Yeah.
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 when I had very little. So
Yeah.
I'm not, but I trust his decision making
Yeah.
when it comes to the family. But I'm more of let's create some memories for these kids today, because when they turn 18 and they're out, we're going to have plenty of money.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have anything to do with them. And then, the kids will be gone.
There's money. There's a big pot of money. The
like-
kids
Not
are
a
gone.
big pot, but we'll definitely
But you know
have
what
a lot left
I know what
over.
you're thinking. Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so this is great because we got two couples that are kind of in the middle of life with kids, and one who's made it to the other side. Is it true? Is it like this big pot of money on the other side? And then
He's
there's
like,
no
oh yeah, I'm
kids?
taking a vacation right now.
It's just
Well, let's
freedom.
put it this way: I get to keep everything I make now. So that's a huge step.
That's a good deal.
No, I mean, they're 18 and gone. What do you?
I'm not expecting millions.
It just shifts.
Sean is 23.
We're not
and he's
saying
still like-
lotto money. We're just saying,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
there some
no.
freedom on the other side that's nice that you can give us hope to look forward to?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
There's more paycheck
If you plan
than
for
there is
it.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did you hear Kat? She goes, "Is there more paycheck than month?"
Depends. That $100 rule went out the window. So.
Yeah, I think that's there's a level of truth to that, right? That like, hey, you get to the other side, you get kids to a certain age that are they're responsible. That of course you're going to lower your burden. There's going to be a little more freedom, but there's something about like you have to get there,
Yeah.
and you got to be disciplined enough and communicating enough, and inviting certain financial principles into your life enough to get there.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden it can destroy you along the way. Like you
Absolutely.
can start off married and, building a family and destroy yourself over money,
Yeah,
which is
and-
crazy.
One of the like biggest mistake I used to make is like plan with money that I didn't have. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this bonus here, I'm gonna get this, and I used to like say, let's do this great stuff, not like, and then it wouldn't come in, or like a car expense would come in, or like, that's what I've noticed, right? Like the you could plan all you want, but then something happens, and you're like, okay, so there's a surgery that I wasn't expecting to spend $4,000 on.
Right.
Out of nowhere, so you're
Yeah.
like, okay, so now I have to like regroup, replan, and like
Right.
and stuff. So that's I've tried for us to get better at that. Like, okay, I just want to have a cushion for when these things happen, where one of the kids need help with something that we could help them.
But that's another thing that we have a clear understanding. We can have a plan, but if any of our kids need something,
That comes
there's
first.
no discussion about it. Like if one of our kids needs a surgery, I mean, we co-parent. It doesn't matter how it's done. If it needs to get done, it's gonna get done.
Right.
Whether the money comes from one side or the other, like the kids are priority, and if they require any help financially in any way, then our plan is different.
Yeah.
How do you balance that, like that idea? Because you guys are on the other side of that a little bit. You've got adult kids now. So how do you get them to financial independence without making them financially dependent upon you? Go.
I think we've been blessed in that way. Our kids are pretty much go-getters, and they go after what they need. They don't even. I don't even think they would ask.
Yeah,
a
but
lot of
here,
times,
but
you know
that's,
what I'm saying?
but
So-
I get this a lot. Let me challenge you a little bit. I get
Okay.
this a lot, and I think it's wrong, right? And I'm pushing back and think about what I'm pushing back on. I get people who basically think like it just happened, and I'm like, I doubt it. I bet if we dig in a little bit, you did some things and you set a certain standard in your home that probably just got adopted as the norm that led to independence. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like you got lucky. You know what I mean? Like people don't just get lucky typically on these things. They have certain principles in their family that create that dynamic that their kids get to a level of independence.
I know I can talk for me, for Danny and Katie in their younger days, like we didn't have credit card debt really.
Yeah.
We didn't have, we would have, I remember like my former spouse like initiating a car payment and then that didn't last long. Like we didn't have car payments. We lived, I would say probably paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
But then when it came around like for school clothes, I would give them a budget and I would say, if you want to buy a pair of tennis shoes with that money, then that's
yours.
what you're wearing. Or you're wearing whatever with
Yeah.
the tennis shoes.
But like
That's really good.
But that's a perfect example. Do you see what you just said?
Yeah.
Like you just stated something that you thought was just like a thing, right? But what you did was that was a training tool. Like you may not realize it, but when you give a kid like, hey, here's your school money for school clothes. Now you have to manage this. You're training that kid at like 15, 14, whatever it is. Like you have to manage your, budget, right? And if you want to spend it all on a pair of Jordans, that's up to you. You're going to go in last year's school clothes, right? But like that creates a level of like maturity,
Absolutely.
right? And I think a lot of parents don't get that transition to get them to 18 and independent doesn't just happen. Like they have to get some parenting along the way where they learn that through a structure. If you're just mitigating all that for them and just paying it willy-nilly, and then they get to 18 and they're just like, well, they're used to mom and dad just mitigating it all and paying for it all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't know why they don't really come back to us for financial help. Like if they needed it, I don't know that they need it. What are you looking at me for?
I'm just thinking of something that happened last week.
What?
It has,
Come on.
Okay, so I'm rearranging my like, we're thinking about doing a will and all these
Oh, okay.
things. So I text all the kids individually, send me the last four of your social,
Right.
I think for beneficiary purposes or something.
Uh-huh.
One of them, came in a timely manner. One that I hardly ever hear from is like, boom. Okay. I'm like, dang, that was quick.
Yeah, you were like, wait a minute, hold on.
That's
Boom.
when I texted first one to answer on it.
I mean,
That's what I was thinking about.
I would want our kids to come to us, especially if.
There was a real
they're
problem.
They're productive members of society.
Right.
And they're,
Sure, every parent wants that.
I would want my kids to feel like they could come.
I think the reason is that, look, let's not overstate it generally, but I think the reason they don't, and is because of what you just said. Once you get, think about everybody here feels the same way. Once you get to 18, a certain level of independence, there's a big reward that comes with taking responsibility for your own life. You feel good about being able to pay your own bills and be responsible for your own stuff. Nobody wants to live off somebody else,
Right.
Yeah.
right? You want to feel like, hey, we've got responsibility of our own stuff. We're taking care of our own deal, right? So that's why they don't come back, because they're like, we got this, Mom. Thank you so much for getting us to this point. Boom, let's go.
Well, my thing is, my children will never be homeless, regardless of how old they are,
Absolutely.
or hungry.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as I'm alive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I can have something to, I have a way of, if I'm like a vegetable.
You feel the same way, or just hungry?
No, I definitely feel the same way, but I also don't feel like I owe my kids anything. It's
What do you
my
mean?
job.
Because that sounds harsh.
No, I don't. I think a lot of parents these days have this belief that they owe their kids.
Everything they want.
They
for
have to throw all these finances at their kids, and I disagree with that.
Okay.
You don't have to spend a ton of money buying your kids toys, doing all this stuff to give your kids a good life. And so in that sense, I don't feel like I owe them anything
Right.
Yeah.
financially. We do that for them because they're our children.
Right.
And we want to.
Yeah.
But when it's our job also to teach them how to be productive and to grow up and
Be
be able to take
responsible.
care of themselves,
Yeah.
to grow up and to be independent. And so I would never let my kids be homeless or hungry if that was the only circumstance.
Yeah.
Like
If they
other
really needed
factors
it.
that could be playing into that, where there's some tough love needed, and that's a different discussion. But if they just fall on hard times, of course.
Yeah, it's
you
definitely
know.
not an invite for all five of them.
Come over.
Come back.
See, like our the only one that really qualifies in that is I mean, Elizabeth just turned 18.
Right.
But like Sean, as soon as he turned 18, since he's been 18, he pays for his car,
Yeah.
he pays for his insurance,
Yeah.
he pays for his phone. You know what I mean? So, and he goes full time to work and full time to school.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Ethan's the same way.
Yeah. So with
The
that,
time
I
he
have
turned
no problem
18,
with that.
we've never given him a dime.
No, I haven't
That's
either.
like-
Like he buys his own, and even now, like he did have some surgery for his eye, but every time he goes to buys his stuff, like his medicine, he buys his medicine. He pays for
Yeah.
everything. Like he's very responsible about it.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got like a decent amount of money saved up.
Yeah.
At 18,
18.
like that's. I mean, at 20, something that's hard to say.
Yeah.
His
Hard.
credit score is great. Like, I feel like, because I told him, like, I think, like, for me, it was that. It was, like, a lack of education. Like, our parents didn't know what credit scores were. They
Right.
didn't know the importance of having something saved up or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
none of that was ever taught to me. I learned the hard way. And then I'm like, oh, I got to buy a house, and you actually need a credit score for this. So I had to learn a lot of stuff to get my credit score up and
Yeah.
and to have savings.
Learn the hard way.
But that's something that I do make sure that the kids know. I was like, hey, you don't have to just to have it. It's like, even in some jobs, if you don't have a good credit score, or they see that you're financially responsible, they won't take you.
True story. Couple questions. First one was about needs and wants, right? I mean, I don't want to read this whole question because it's long, but what's the difference between a need and a want? How can godly people learn to be content with their needs when their needs are met? So what's the difference between a need and a want?
That's a big issue in this country right now.
Need and a want.
Because, I always go, I had conversations with people. I was like, the United States was not with, like back in the day, there was, like, one TV in the living room. There wasn't, like, a TV
Yeah,
like in
it's
every
like,
room.
it's multiple. Is
Right.
TV at all
Yeah.
a need or a want?
Right.
Well, that goes back. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Ladies first.
It goes back to what I was saying. I don't owe them anything. I'll always meet their needs, but I don't always have to meet all of the kids' wants.
Okay.
You
Cell
know,
phones.
like-
Everybody's got
That
cell
sounded, then that sounds a little more palpable, right? Like, that sounded nice.
I think I forget a little bit when it comes to that. Like I'm big, but I think that the thing is balance. Cause I also was like, no, you don't need that. No, you don't need that. No, you don't need that. And it was like a lot of shut down. And she's like, no, you gotta also look at the other side of it that I've learned with her. Because before I was just like, no, those Nikes and those shoes from Walmart is exactly the same thing. That, they're both gonna break down. And then they're like, so like the first time, like I think the first time that
We had one argument.
No, okay, please.
When we
Get me
we
going.
had one argument when we were dating. I bought one of the kids, and I'm not gonna mention names. I bought one of the kids their first pair of brand name sneakers.
Adidas, I think it was.
A pair of Adidas. Okay? And I'm not talking a 5, 6, 10-year-old, 11. I'm talking a grown kid. I bought one, their first pair. And he was not happy with me. Because how dare I spend $80 on a pair of sneakers for a grown kid, And I was like,
It was just, I mean,
I'm like,
somebody gave me these, but
I'm
if
like,
you look at my wardrobe,
I understand
it's
that,
Walmart.
and that's fine. But it's okay to teach your kids to be grateful. But it's okay to teach your kids that it's okay to have a little bit of higher expectations with as long as you don't go overboard, It's not bad. And then I noticed that some of the kids would be almost like, they will almost feel guilty for wanting something.
yeah.
And I'm like, there's an issue here.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for you to want something. You have to have the desire, as long as it's a healthy thing. But when you have you've pushed down the want for anything so much
Yeah.
that it's almost like
Yeah, there was no balance.
I feel guilty.
Yeah.
That I feel guilty for wanting a pair of pants, or I feel guilty for wanting a book, or I feel I'm like, it's okay that you want a different kind of cookie, like an actual Oreo, not a Walmart cookie. Like, it's okay. You know what
They're
I'm
both
saying?
Oreos.
Walmart Oreos.
Both
They're
Oreos
not.
are
They're
They're not.
They're
I
not
know
the
they're not.
same, bro.
They're not the same.
But the
I'm
Fruit
like,
Loops from Aldi's are way better than the ones.
I'm like, it's okay to want for things.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you a wasteful person. Now if you have, and this is, I'm not shaming anybody, but if you have, some people have collections of expensive shoes and stuff, and that's what they do, which is fine. But if you go above your what you can afford, if you're putting yourself in debt to acquire these things,
Yeah.
that's very different than you wanting for something a little bit better if you can afford it. If it's not going to put you in debt, if it's not going to hurt your family financially, it's okay for you to want something a little bit better.
It is an interesting subject, like trying to teach kids the difference between wants and needs, because every kid's got to learn that. Like, every child has to learn how to determine that, and if you don't determine that, it's a quick road to indebtedness. You know what I'm saying?
So
Absolutely.
we do, it's really important to mention that throughout this whole marriage thing, a lot of things have to happen before this subject, like all the things that we've talked about.
Right.
We communicate well, we know that we have each other's back, we know that it's not an attack when he comes to me and he brings something up, so all of that helps to set the stage for us to have that conversation. Like you said, we've created balance. He's very good at saying that's not necessary,
Right.
and I can come back and be like, I know it's not necessary, but these are the things that we can teach if we do this.
Yeah.
These are the values that we can bring up to them if we do, so it's like a balance,
Yeah.
Like,
Do you think your kids got it quickly, what it meant to be the difference between a need and a want? Did you remember having those conversations, or did they just like,
Oh, I'm sure I had those conversations.
That is
But
a lot.
like what you're saying is balance, and I think sometimes I'm just talking younger in their lives.
Right.
Like, I enjoyed saving money. Like, I enjoyed not. Well, I did go to the mall, but like I loved going into like thrift stores and
Yeah.
buying
Finding a deal.
furniture,
Sure.
or going over to Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale and getting like antiques and I don't know. I just or going to consignment stores and
Yeah.
getting deals.
Yeah.
But it was different when because he's the shopper and the buyer.
Ah, shocking.
Yeah, he likes to shop. Maybe a
thought
little.
it.
Maybe you've calmed down a little bit,
I'm
but
on a fixed income.
I mean, the adjustment was like he would say to me like, "We're almost out of milk," and I'd be like, "You still have enough milk." It was that. I know it sounds weird, but
Right.
it was really an adjustment for me to go get another gallon of milk when there was already some
There's
milk
this
there.
much left in the jug. Okay, so let's run out and be
Well, I'm
out
not
for 3
kidding.
days
I'm
before we
not
go to the store.
I'm not
think
kidding. 'cause
It is
when-
weird. Couples are weird. Like they have
Yeah.
like weird little idiosyncrasies about like certain things. Like Kat will be super weird about certain things. And I'll be like, "What are we doing?
I think
Like this is so weird."
Only you
I think
are.
that
I'm the
threshold
only one. He's
between
perfect.
needs and wants would drastically change once you don't have a lot or like you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like what you actually need to live is very different.
Let's get raw. Like, what do you really need? You need food,
Shelter, Wi-Fi,
shelter,
Clothing.
What?
You know,
food.
Wi-Fi.
You need clothing,
you
food,
need clothing,
and shelter.
food and shelter. You know what I mean? And like, and to us, even though it was weird, because like our parents lived in the United States, like we really didn't have a lot of like extra stuff. You know, like I used to get like sometimes hand-me-downs from my brothers, and they're like 5'11", I'm 5'3". So like, you know, it was weird. But so like, I don't know. I just never grew up with that whole. I need a pair brand
Yeah.
of like a brand for something to be functional for what I need.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? Like I don't need a BMW or something like that when my Toyota can get me where I need to go
Yeah.
or whatever. So that's what
Yeah.
I mean. Like I think if we break it down to what you really need and how much of all the stuff is actually just luxury and extra stuff that we want to get just because it's there.
Yeah.
Think of how much money you could save and
Crazy.
actually make an impact like into your family's life when your family needs something and to for God if you need to help somebody.
Yeah.
That's something that's been a focus of me for a while now.
Yeah, it's true.
That it's like how much of this can I actually use for an impact instead of it being almost wasted. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you buy stuff for Christmas or for whatever and the kids don't even use it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, just spend all this money and it's like, so it wasn't a need. You've said for months that you want it, and now you don't touch it.
Well, that's, I think, a good point, too, is it's really hard, I think, these days to teach kids the difference
Yes.
between needs and wants. Especially, I'm noticing that more so now with the little ones versus our older ones.
Yeah.
But also teaching them to be good stewards with
Yes.
what they've been given.
Yeah.
And teaching them those skills now, so when they do become an adult.
Yeah.
I read something this week that if you wanted to save $10,000 in a year, or spend $10,000 in a year, you just have to spend $28 a day.
Yeah.
And so it was saying the importance that it's the little purchases that make you broke.
Yeah.
And
That is very true.
I'm like,
It's like,
That's me.
$28 a day,
That's me.
but
that's
she
nothing.
doesn't spend any money on herself. It's not like she's wasteful and whatever. Like
I'm not shopping for me.
she's not self She's like, I think this little kid in my school would like this, or I think this little person here, or I think my friend over here would need this, and this will make this person's life better,
Yeah.
and this stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I get it.
All right. Question number 2. Can you go back real quick?
Yes.
How can we learn to be content? Oh, never mind. No, we already did that one. Didn't we do that one? Go back. Let me see that one more time. How can we learn to be content when our needs are met? That is a different question. Like, how can you be content though? Like, once you've got food, shelter, clothes, learning to be content, just because you have those things doesn't mean you're content.
I think,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, no, go ahead.
Please.
Okay, I think that what he mentioned earlier has a lot to do. When you have the experience of very little,
Content.
it's a lot easier
You think?
to be content. Absolutely.
Honduras.
It's a lot
Those kids
easier
in
to be
Honduras.
content.
Yeah.
I say that phrase often,
Yeah.
you know, especially being around kids. Sometimes we do something and they're just still unhappy. And I say that if I did this in Honduras,
Yeah.
those kids would be overjoyed
Yeah.
because they have a level of appreciation because they have an awareness of the need.
Yeah.
You know, like if you give a child here a balloon, they're gonna be like, "Meh." You know, if you take a pack of balloons to a child in Honduras or Cuba or another country that's not accessible to them
It's volleyball.
all the time, they're gonna be like, wow, mind blown.
Yeah.
You know, so
It's a good point. Like,
But the
being
other point to that
content.
is, because there is a flip side to that, is that our kids don't live in Honduras. So
Yeah.
they haven't grown up there, so they can't
You are
comprehend that.
listening.
I pay attention
I
sometimes.
taught him that.
She did. She told me that. She was like, but our kids, I was like, they don't want to eat the chicken nuggets? Like, this kid's starving all over the world. What do you mean they're being picky with what they want to eat? And then she's like, but they haven't been to Honduras, so they haven't experienced that. So
Yeah.
you can't expect them to feel that when they haven't experienced it. And I'm like,
So it's hard to balance.
What about us, though? Do you think you're content? Do you think you're content? You're a content person, just like I'm good?
I think I am.
Yeah?
Am I?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
She looked at my closet and I have, you know, like the sun shirts and stuff
Yeah.
for fishing. So I'd like to have some shirts like that. I'm like, then buy some. Like, she won't buy anything for herself.
I did.
I
She did. She
did.
bought a couple, finally.
I know.
But yeah, she's very content. She just, you know,
I'm very
Takes it as it
content with
comes.
stuff. I'm like you. I don't
Yeah.
need a lot of stuff. I don't
Right.
buy anything, and I don't care if anything gets broken.
I know.
You know, actually, I broke something the other day. This is a horrible story, guy. I can't believe I'm gonna say this online. Okay, let's do it. I have very few things that are like have any meaning to me, but I had gotten this mug from one of the couples that I married, and they had my face put on the mug, like the actual, you know, and like this cartoon face of mine put on the mug, and then I dropped that mug in the kitchen the other day, and broke that mug.
No.
And you
And it's like one of the only things that I realized as I broke it. This is one of the things I care about. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't care about anything. Like you can, kids have broken everything that I own. Right? Like, they've destroyed it all, including golf clubs and everything. I'm just like whatever, you know. But that thing hit the concrete and I let out a expletive. And Talon came running in from the other room. And he's like, "You okay?" I was like, "Just leave me alone."
I need a moment.
I need a mug.
Don't you cry.
But we collect mugs. We collect mugs everywhere we go. We get a mug, and that's our little thing. We collect mugs. And I was just so like, but I'm content when it comes to things. But let me tell you what I'm not. Let's see if a bell goes off. I'm not content with not having experiences. And so even though I don't want things, I do want to have experiences. Like especially with the kids, and I want to be able to have them have experiences. And so I'm always driving us towards the next thing that we're going to be doing. Right? Like I was on the phone with Dee today talking about where are we going next, blah, 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 blah. You know, and I'm always planning the next thing, and she's always like, okay.
We
Yeah,
just
you
did
don't ever
something.
buy any clothes, but we're about to go on a trip that's going to cost us blah, 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 blah.
What did you say?
Does that make sense?
That's exactly what I just said to her. I was like, so my family was just here, and we just did all these trips like in a week.
Right.
I was like, so, and we have a trip that we decided like we're not doing any gifts for Christmas. We're
Right.
taking a family trip.
Okay, so it's
Well-
peanut butter and jelly until then?
Yeah, no, it's good, but I'm saying like
No, but if we do two things in one weekend, then in his mind, we don't have to do anything. And I'm like,
to balance it out.
what?
yeah, the month of
Yeah,
doing
it's
nothing.
like-
But I'm always reminding her. I was like, remember that we have this trip, and for this trip, there's a certain amount of things that we have to get.
Yeah.
That we have to accommodate
And
for.
I
Like,
always rebuttal.
remember that
I
trip.
always rebuttal.
think
I
you
have a
remember
Groupon.
That's funny.
We're good.
I don't need this shirt. Is like, how old is this shirt?
I don't-
I don't.
It'll-
The things or places like none of that stuff. It
I
doesn't.
do wanna
it,
go
it
places.
doesn't.
No, wait a minute. Going places doesn't do it for you?
Not like none of that. Like I'm happy. Like I'm not I don't
Okay.
live waiting for the weekend or
Okay.
waiting for the next place I'm gonna go.
Okay.
Like I'm happy every day with whatever I'm
I
doing.
am too, but I want to have. I have this dream in my mind about
Yeah.
certain family experiences, right? So every time we're like when we get going, like here comes like whatever spring break.
Yeah.
We're 5 weeks out from spring break, and I'm in there hunting for a deal, right? And she's like, I even think this time, like I think this time she was like, "You take the kids, right?" I'm like, out.
I'm out.
Yeah, how about my spring break is give me a break, right? You know, and so I think like we're different on that. Like she'll want tangible things sometimes, and I'm just like, I just want an experience with like everybody. You know what I'm saying? But
I don't know.
it's
am
all
I
spending.
content?
However you look at it, it's all
The
spending.
content is this.
No, seriously. I feel
I don't
like you're
know.
being
Are
sarcastic.
you-
I feel like I'm content, but I do want to do things with the kids.
Me too. How about you?
I love to do things.
That's when we
Like,
go the
I'm-
craziest probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go yeah, it's like, hey, let's go get the kids. We're all gonna go do this, or the grandkids, or whatever. Let's all
I
go
do
do
love
this.
things, and I find these weird places that they laugh at me the whole time that we're driving, like some
She
random
took us to some
castle
castle.
in the middle of I don't know where.
I was like,
It's your
this
footage,
is,
you
I've
know.
seen murder movies that got filmed here.
And I'm like, and we have the best time once they go. Like yesterday, we were at lakefront,
Yeah.
pouring rain for 3 hours, and they're all staring at me like, "You're seriously not gonna take us home?" And I said, "Go play in the rain. You're gonna make it. Go." And at the end of the night, they
It
were
was
like,
perfect.
They were like, "This was so worth it." And I'm like, "See?" And it was free.
Sometimes you got to get through. Yeah. Sometimes you got to struggle. Did you guys have your normal get together at your place? Yeah. Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Are credit cards the devil?
Yes.
You guys still do credit debt?
I do have credit.
Yeah.
I don't have a tremendous amount of credit debt.
Right.
I think it's a good tool if it's used wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
almost necessary,
Yeah.
you know,
It
today's
is.
world.
You almost have to have some level of
Yeah,
credit
absolutely.
experience to
Absolutely.
to do anything.
To get like a house, you need like 3 credit accounts open for longer than 2 years.
Yeah. But do you have credit debt?
A lot, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a lot earlier on in our marriage.
Yeah.
We would kind of do this thing.
Yeah.
We would kind of do this thing where we would like dip into like and pay it off and dip in and pay
We
it
do
off.
the same
But
thing.
we haven't done credit cards in how many years now?
I don't know, it's been a long time.
And that's what I
Probably
want to
5
get.
years we have not had
And
like we don't do any credit
He has
cards.
a goal.
That's my goal.
I ruin
to
it
get out
all
of
the
it.
time, but he has a goal, and we're working towards being
Yeah.
Yeah.
debt free.
Yeah.
But we definitely still have some,
Yeah.
and we still do the.
'Cause, man, every time something happens, it's like a graduation and like
It's
there's
usually
always
a
something.
big chunk,
Yeah.
you know.
And we have
then
like
you're
a big group.
Yeah.
So I think that's our biggest challenge is that like we have such a big group that any little anything is like
Just waiting for it's like ticking time bombs. Those
Yeah.
kids. Somebody's gonna go off. Yeah, but we got rid of them and we got just rid of them, right?
Yeah, we don't.
you got rid of them all together.
Well, don't
Well, all
you
together. I think we have one. I think you have one, right? But we don't use it, right?
So
Right,
you
no.
link like, so if you buy online,
Use
you
your
link it to
I
your
just use
Yeah.
PayPal.
major account?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
PayPal
Yeah.
with my debit card.
PayPal or your
Yeah, but we
whatever.
don't have-
What I have the kids do, like Sean and like Brandon is 16, so he's not there yet. But what I teach them to do is to use the credit card and pay them off right away. Like just use it, pay it off. Like get your gas, get your stuff, and then pay it off at the end of the month. Like don't go past what you need, just so they can see that you're responsible with the money.
Yeah.
Because that's how it grows. If you go like after a certain amount in your credit, then your credit goes down.
Yeah.
But you need to use it for it to go up.
Yeah. Ethan's doing the same part, but yeah, we just
We were really good with Ethan though about if you don't have the money, you're not spending someone else's money. The credit card is spending someone else's money, and that's money you
Correct.
don't have. And so we were really big about you're going to save this, and if you want a car or a new car or whatever you want, you got to save it.
You gotta save it.
And then go buy it with your cash.
yeah.
Yeah.
We taught him that
Yeah.
until he was, old enough to get his own credit card and.
But he manages it now that way, so
Yeah.
it's been good.
Yeah.
It's been good. All right, last question. What limits are you willing to put on your standard of living to have time with family and give to others in need? That is a good question.
A nice cardboard box.
To live in.
I always say that to him. Like,
Just put me inside a nice car.
like, I'm just saying, like,
But air conditioner
Really?
at the 50.
I mean, that's a joke.
Make it comfortable.
Seriously though, when, being with family and being part of a community like our church and being able to give back to a community, that's where real meaning and life
think so.
comes from.
Amen.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah. That,
I agree.
That's more important than, a fancy
Things and-
car and,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
this and that to impress.
But I noticed that and it's funny too. Some of my most that I look back on fondly, and I have real. I don't know. There's like probably a fine line between pride on this too, but a sense of like, I don't know, like personal validation, a sense of like meaning, maybe purpose, whatever word you want to use, is when we were in places and in times in our life where we have been financially responsible and all of our needs were met and we were living within our means and we were able to do something really important in somebody's life. Like really important, like step in and deal with something, right?
Like in a big way.
In a big way.
Yeah.
And
I
I was
agree.
thinking about it the other day. We haven't really done that recently. I can't remember the last time we did that like in a big way. But like I look back on some of those and I was like, that was an awesome thing. Like when we were able to do that, it just feels right. You know what I'm saying? And like getting back to the discipline of that, you got to be disciplined to do that. You got to be pretty. It doesn't just happen. I think to the people that are listening, like you don't just like accidentally fall into that position. You have to be very disciplined to get to that position. I think that's what that question's asking is, are you willing to put forth certain disciplines that get you to a place where you could change somebody's month, somebody's week, somebody's life, you know what I'm saying, by stepping in.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing, man. Those
Yes,
are
it is.
cool moments.
That question reminds me of the Dave Ramsey tagline.
Oh, what is it?
Live how no one's living so you can live how no one lives.
Yeah,
Like later in life.
yeah.
Yes.
Disciplined living so that you can do what nobody gets to do. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
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 And it's funny that you can do it. Every year a pastor that I listen to does a big like financial push at his church, and he calls it "Be Rich." Then it comes out of this passage that we're studying, this 1 Timothy passage, where Paul tells Timothy, he's like, teach the people in your church to be rich. And he explains what that means, and part of what it means is teach them that they're so blessed that they can be a blessing, right? And I just, there's something about that. Like we were with some affluent friends recently, and when you're with people who have a certain level of means and they can do things that really just bless other people, you're like, wow, I'd love to do that. But then you realize, like, I could do that.
Yeah.
It's on a completely different level, but I could do that. I
Yeah.
can do that. I got to quit telling myself I can't, right? Like, we can do that and be a blessing to people in our lives, and it's such a good moment when you have that moment to do it. You know what I'm saying? But you got to be disciplined to do it. If you're living constantly above your means all the time, sucking up all your own resources, you can never do it.
Never do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So,
You're good at that. My husband's good at that.
yeah.
He helps. He helps.
Not as much as I.
Not as much as we would want to, but what we can do, he helps. You help my family a lot.
I do. I mean, I do. I guess I do. I do.
He does it. He doesn't realize it, but he does.
Yeah.
He does.
I love but what are you willing to give up to do it? You know what I'm saying? Are you willing to make sacrifices to do that? I think that's the emphasis of the question. Are you willing
Yeah.
to make sacrifices to do that?
Absolutely.
Really? Tell me more.
Just like a silly example, I was, when you get the new car, like advertisements at the end of the year, I was like, my car's like 6 years old. Maybe let me check
into
out.
this.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
check out the offer. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna drive
yeah.
this thing till the wheels fall off.
That's
I
how
have
I
no
feel
car
about mine.
payment. I don't care if people think my car is cool or if I have an expensive car. I don't really care. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna enjoy. You know what smells nicer than a new car is no car payment.
Yes.
We pay. When did we pay them off this year?
Yeah.
Well, this year we paid off all our cars. We have no car payment, and I gotta tell you that.
It's a big difference. Like it's
nice
a big
thing.
difference.
So
Not having
nice.
car
Yeah.
payments.
And it's so tempting though. The second you get that car paid off, it's like you start going,
I'm gonna keep
I got some
driving.
extra
trade
cash.
this in, get a new car payment. You know, so it's like, oh gosh, you know.
Well,
tempting, isn't it?
we have a few cars we still have to buy.
Two more. Two more. We're almost
Yeah,
there.
we got some.
We got
coming
two
down the
more.
pipe. We
We're
really
almost
do.
there.
That's true. Ugh.
There goes your dream.
Yeah, there goes dream gone. Kids, dream killers.
Yes. Yes. Hashtag true.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Like, that's a simple thing. Hey, I don't know how far I want to push this, but I do notice that happens here a lot, and I don't want to be offensive. I'm about to be offensive Hopefully nobody's offended.
Kidding.
I do notice that here a lot. Like, we live in what would you call it? I mean, this is a pretty, low end, white collar, blue collar town. You know what I'm saying? Most people are, middle class, lower middle class, whatever. But it is funny to me, like, we'll stretch ourselves so much in the area of something like a car, like. I mean, just absolutely these giant car payments. I got friends with giant car payments, like crazy money, and I'm just like, "You're paying what for this car?" You know what I'm saying? $700-800 on a car. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, and then they can't even do like simple things. Like they're like,
Yeah.
Little
Put
League's
gas
too,
in it.
yeah, Little League's too much. Church camp too much. Whatever. It's like everything's too much, and I'm like, dude, you're driving a $700 car. You know what I'm saying? A month. Like, that's
month.
insane to me. I don't know what that is, but
It's the society we live in. We're constantly
is.
being bombarded with, you need to be happy. In order to be happy, you need a new car. You need
New phone.
a really nice house that you really shouldn't be buying. You can't afford that. These expensive XYZ whatever.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the contentment. Contentment it's a verb. You have to
Keep up
work
with the
on that.
Joneses.
You have to do it. And by just searching for the next thing you're never going to be content. in that.
Yeah.
So I think what are you willing to give up? It's that search for the next thing that's just going to drain
Yeah.
your.
I just
yeah,
think,
it's gonna drain you.
This is my personal practice. I do this every day to help me set the mood for the day.
Okay.
Other than talk to my homie, Jesus,
JC?
I am mindful about gratefulness.
Yeah.
That is the first thing I do every day after I thank Jesus for opening my eyes. I am grateful. I say that out loud, and I do an inventory of all of the things that I have that make me grateful.
it's pretty
And
good.
sometimes if you don't do that, we're so busy that we forget how much we actually do have.
That's called entitlement.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So you forget if you don't purposely, and I had a conversation with a friend the other day, because she was saying, I'm feeling this way and and I said, when was the last time that you actually stopped and purposely said, let me be grateful for even the bad things,
Yeah.
even if you're tired, even if you feel like you're not feeling your best or whatever it may be, still be grateful. But if you don't do that consciously, you start to forget and you start to want more things and you start to seek for other things that are ultimately not going to fulfill you either. So you have to take the time to look around and really be grateful for the things that we do have, and that will bring you contentment.
For me, it's always been like, none of this, I don't want to overstate it, but none of this crap's going with us.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
It all
not.
goes back
Yeah.
into the box. It gets put away. It's not going with us. The only thing that matters is people, and so I just want to have time with people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I just want to have the sense of like experience and connection, and something happens in that for me. That's what's worth spending money on. It's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
for us to have the experience, I'll spend the money, whatever that takes. But
Yeah.
for the stuff, I'm like,
And
It's
there's
all
always
gonna
going to be
burn.
something greater. Like, I think that's something that people miss is that you could buy the latest phone, the latest, whatever the latest is, but the latest is only the latest until the next one comes out in a couple of weeks. And you just, like, it's really weird
yeah,
when, when people are like, I got the best at the moment.
at the
In
moment,
the 2 days, not the best anymore.
not the best
We
anymore.
went on a vacation the beginning of the year with some friends, and I remember when we got back, and she's one of my best friends, she was like, I loved going on vacation with you because every little thing you were so excited about, and I never want to lose that, I think that those are things money can buy.
Right.
It's true.
So it's like, I remember it snowed and I was like, oh my gosh, it's snowing. And it's like, everything is like a big
Christmas
deal.
miracle.
And I'm not faking it. Like, I genuinely feel so grateful for those things. And
Yeah.
I think that although I do sometimes want something, because I'm human, I'm not going to sit here and pretend That sometimes I don't look at something and I'm like, ooh, that's a nice shirt. I would like to have that, you know. I still have wants, but it, you know, it doesn't overtake the real meaning of what contentment should be, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I agree. All right, I think that's about as far as we can go for this evening. We've got one more week that we'll be getting together next Monday, and then we'll wrap up our little marriage series, and then hopefully once school gets back started, we'll bring in a new group and do another marriage series before the year's out. All right, love you, mean it. See you Wednesday.